in your industry. Okay, guys, if you don't know me, my name is Lisa Balthaser, and my business is Fleur Lisa Solutions. I am a business coach, and I help coaches and service-based business owners grow and scale their businesses online to create repeatable processes and consistent revenue so they can have a sustainable business. And before we get started here, I just wanted to call attention to I am using HAPS Broadcast Studio, which, if you haven't heard about it, it is a new and free world-class broadcasting tool. Helps community engagement. It has a whole community in and of itself. And I have been testing it out off and on. I love it. And if you haven't tried it, give it a shot. It's a little bit different, but it definitely has its benefits. So you want to check it out. It's called HAPS, HAPPS. Okay, guys, so let's dig right in. If you are here, let me know. Say hi. In the app, I can see that there's people here, but I cannot see who unless you tell me who you are. So before we get started on the 3 things that you can do, I want to talk a little bit about how to accomplish that. Okay. If you have an online business, if you have had an online business and you have been in the marketplace for a while, you know the challenges have shifted over the years. Things used to be real easy and now they're more challenging, but there are different ways to do things for sure. So first I want to address that subject. Before we go any further, I want to talk about time and energy. Okay. Over the years, I have had so many people come to me and they want miracles. They want things to happen instantaneously. They want instant stardom, instant influence, and instant clients. So before we start with anything, I want to address that little elephant in the room and say that it does not happen overnight. And if somebody tells you that it does, it's not true. Okay? Just know that marketing and establishing your brand online is the long game. It's not the short game. And if you're thinking that it's the short game, that's the type of client you will attract. Okay? So I want to start by addressing that. I also want to address how to get to authority, how to get to being seen as an influencer online, and how to get the respect that you need to grow your business. Okay, and again, it does not come with instantaneous gratification. Okay, it's a long game. Marketing is always a long game. Okay, so when you are growing your business, just know that slow and steady does actually win the race. Okay, you can accomplish things quickly online, but usually it's not sustainable if you do it that way. Okay, so just know that. Just know that just because somebody had a huge launch and they're bragging about it online because people like to do that. Apparently money attracts. I don't necessarily like that type of marketing because to me, it doesn't matter if somebody has a $150,000 launch if the next launch they only have one sale. And that's the thing. Okay. So I'm looking at a long, sustainable way to grow your business. Okay. So you have to be consistent in what you do day in and day out online. And that means being consistent with the 3 things that I'm going to talk about today. I've seen people, and I myself have been guilty of it. I'm not going to lie, and I'll address that. I have seen people start doing these 3 things, or 1 or 2 of them, and then they stop, and then they go back to it, and then They were doing it weekly. Then they do it once a month. That is not being consistent, guys. When you create something online, your audience is expecting you to do it on regular intervals. Okay. So if you are sporadic, it does not build trust. So I wanted to address some of these things before I start talking about what the three things are. Okay. Being slow and steady and consistent really does win the game in the long run. Okay. Like I said, it's a long game. It's not going to bring you immediate gratification, but you will begin to be known, respected, and seen as an expert and an authority in what you do over time if you are consistent. Okay. I've already addressed that it's the long game. And guys, I have 2 spots available in my one-on-one coaching program right now, and I also have some other programs, but right now I wanted to talk the one-on-one coaching program. I have 2 spots available in that program. Okay. It's a 4-month long program, and we dig deep. We go deep, we go fast. Okay. So if you want massive growth in your business this year, you have 4 months: September, October, November, December. It is through the end of the year that we will be working together in a very aggressive way. And by aggressive, I don't mean that it's going to kill you. I mean, we're going to be doing the things that are going to get you to your goals. Okay. So, and it's going to be fast because it's 4 months. 4 months is not a long time, but it is long enough to make a really huge impact on your business. Okay. So I put a link in the chat for you to schedule a call with me if you're interested in that. And I'd love to talk to you. You do have to qualify. I do want to let you know about that. So let's get into the 3 powerful things that can help you establish authority in your industry. And I know you know about these. That's the thing. But a lot of people are not doing them. Some people are doing maybe 1, but like I said, they're not doing them consistently. Some people are doing maybe 2, but they're not doing them consistently. For the people that even choose just one of these things to do consistently, you will be able to establish authority in your industry if you are consistent, if you are precise, and if you understand who your niche is and who you are talking to. Okay. That's really important before you do any marketing. So first, you do need to know who you're talking to. And once you know that and you have that pinpointed, you will have authority when you do these 3 things. Okay. So number 1, let's get started. Number 1 is, guys, you know this, podcasting. You know that podcasting can establish authority in your industry. Is it easy? No, of course not. You have to build your podcast. You have to build your subscribership. You have to build your downloads. You have to ask people to download. You have to ask them to review. You have to ask in a call to action to get people to do those things. People will not, and this is where some people drop off. They don't ask people to download. They don't ask people to review. You have to ask for the things that you want. Okay? It's really important for you to understand that people will not automatically do that. I mean, some will, but most won't. You have to ask for what you want. So the more downloads you get, the more subscribers you get, the more authority you get in the podcasting space, and the more visibility you get when people are searching for podcasts. And if you promote your podcast properly, you can earn those things pretty quickly if you have a decent sized network. Now, so how do you grow with podcasts? Well, first of all, you're providing high value in all of these things that I'm going to talk about. Always remember, you're providing high value for your exact niche. Okay. You also want to reach a new audience. Okay. So, how to do that? Ask for guests. You can ask for guests to be on your podcast. And when they're on your podcast, if they're doing what a good guest should do, they will share your podcast because they want people to see them. Okay. And you can even ask them to do that. Could be a requirement of being on your podcast. But, um, good business sense says I should share this podcast. But not everybody has good business sense. So maybe you want to have that in your contract if they're on your podcast. Make it a requirement that they share it to their list, that they share it on social media at least 1 or 2 times, whatever your requirement can be. Okay. So if you are having guests on your podcast, it allows you to reach a larger audience. So that's what helps you to actually grow your network while you're doing that thing, which is your podcast. Now, I do want to talk a little bit about podcasting because not everybody is a good fit for your podcast. And so many times I see people just taking anybody just to have somebody on their podcast. And that's really not a good idea. So be smart about it. Be the CEO of your company, of your podcast. Okay. Be very selective in who you have on your podcast because the people that you have on your podcast should also bring high value to your audience. Okay. So if, for instance, your audience is business folks and you bring somebody on talking about aging families, you know, healthcare for or aging, taking care of the elderly or something like that. I mean, it just doesn't make any sense, right? But if you have an audience that has is our business folks and you bring somebody in, even if it is a healthcare industry, if it has something to do with self-care and stuff like that, your audience needs that and probably wants it and probably doesn't know how to achieve it. So that could work. Maybe not though. So you have to be really careful in who you're actually asking to be a guest on your podcast. Make sure that it is somebody that is going to be have really valuable information for your audience. Okay. Somebody that your audience is going to resonate with very well. Okay. So the other thing that I wanted to mention about podcasting is that I'm sure you guys know podcasting is a super popular modality right now. So it's really popular to have a podcast, to be on a podcast. And that can be good and that can be bad. Okay. So people are listening to podcasts now, but that also means there are more podcasts that to compete with. Okay. So, you have to weigh what is important to you and how fast you can get there. With podcasting, you can usually break into the space. It may be hard to grow to a level that you are looking for, though. So, you may want to test it. You may want to research it and research what's out there in your field and figure out how to stand out in the crowd. Because, see, that's the key. Okay. Especially, in business or health and wellness, because there's so many people that are talking about those things. You really do need to stand out in the podcasting space. So you need to figure that out first. Don't just throw it up there and decide you're going to have a podcast one day, because it's probably not going to work if you don't have a plan. Okay. So the other thing that I wanted to talk about with podcasting is that you can be a guest on other people's podcasts. Okay. And that actually helps also because you get in front of their audience. And again, if you're a guest on somebody else's podcast, be a good podcast guest and share the podcast. That's just the ethical way to do business these days. So just stick by it. You would want somebody to share yours if they were on your podcast. So do the same in reverse. It's a reciprocal thing. And the more reciprocal things that you do in your business, the more will come back to you. Okay. So if somebody could type in the chat for me, please, podcasting number one, podcasting. And I'd love to hear if you guys do actually have a podcast right now and what that podcast is. You can put that in the comments for me. I would love to check yours out. I do not have a podcast yet. I'm working on that's one of the things I'm working on. I want to make sure I do it right though. Now I do want to talk about the cons because there's a couple cons that come with podcasting. I'm talking about the pros all this time, but there are some cons, and one of them is tech. Okay, now you can do a podcast low tech, but if you want to have a professional podcast with great sound, you probably will have some additional tech involved, and you may or may not understand tech enough to do it. So you may need to hire somebody for that. So tech can be a con for some people. Okay. The other con is time. Okay, so if you're doing your own podcast and you're putting it all together and you're publishing it yourself, again, time is going to be one of the things that you need to consider in podcasting. Okay, so, but if you're hiring somebody out, then it's money. Okay, because then you're paying somebody to do that piece for you. And if you don't have the tech savvy, you may just want to do that. It may be easier for you, but then that can be a con too, because then you're going into the financials and it's, you're putting out money to actually do the podcast. So you need to weigh the benefits and what you're putting out, the ROI. So you need to consider all of those things. All right, so we're done with podcasting, and I don't see anything in there. Anybody podcasting? I see you guys are listening, and I didn't see any comments. So nobody has a podcast. You should consider a podcast, but you really need to be prepared because it is work, and it's the long game. Again, if once you start one, you don't just stop. And with all of these things, you have to be consistent. So if your podcast comes out once a week on a Thursday at 5 o'clock, it needs to come out once a week, Thursday at 5 o'clock. You don't skip a week because you don't feel like it. You don't skip a week because you don't have a guest. When you have a schedule and people expect it, you need to stick to that schedule because that has to do with your reliability, how reliable people see you as, because you're sticking to your word when you said your podcast comes out at that time. Okay. So I would not suggest doing a podcast if you cannot stick to a schedule, if you cannot get one out on a weekly basis or regularly or wherever it is, if maybe it's every other week, maybe it's every month, but whatever schedule that you stick with, whatever schedule that you say you're going to do, you have to do that schedule. Okay. It's the same with everything that I'm talking about here. Now, number two, the second thing to help you establish authority in your industry. And this is one that I love. And a lot of people don't love this anymore, but I happen to love this. So I'm going to talk about it because it is how I got started in my business and how I established my authority online and really grew my business from zero to where I am today. Okay. And that is blogging. Okay. So a lot of people think, oh my gosh, blogging, it takes so much time to write. Nobody reads. There's a lot of things that go on in people's heads about blogging. Okay. So I had stopped blogging for a while because I just quite frankly didn't have the time to blog. So for about 2 or 3 years, I had actually stopped blogging. And every once in a while I would put a blog post up there. But when I did, my website traffic took off. Okay. And this is what I want you guys to understand about blogging. Blogging and writing about your industry, what you do, how you serve people, shows people that you are an authority in your industry. It does. And not only that, you need to blog on your main website, okay? And when you blog on your main website, that helps your SEO. Guys, why are you not blogging? If you're not blogging, why are you not blogging? I look at, when I pull people's websites up, I look at their Alexa traffic ranking. That's one of the things that I look at, just to see how much traffic they get on their website. And the reason I do that is because I'm always curious, like, how much traffic does your website get? Because blogging will help you to create traffic on your website for a few reasons. Number one, you can share that authority with people, and on social media and all of those things. Number two, you can refer people to it. So, as an authority in your business, as somebody that does whatever it is that you do, people are asking you questions all the time. If you have written about it, it gives you the opportunity to send that article to someone and show them that you are actually the expert. You have already talked about this. This is something you talked about last year. So, yes, you know about this. Yes, you can help them. Okay. And the third thing is, every time you blog, and this has to do with SEO and like blogging, I cannot stress enough how important blogging is to SEO. I cannot stress that enough. Okay. When you are blogging, every single time you blog, you are creating new search terms for your website. You are creating a new page that can be found with those search terms. Okay, so when people are out there searching for something that you haven't written about yet, they're not going to find you. But the more things that you're able to write about, the more strings of keywords that you get. Okay, so it's not just about like a keyword such as social media, which is kind of one of my keywords, but it's not about just the keyword itself. It's about keyword strings, such as how to grow my business using social media. If you use that phrase, people search for those things. Okay. So I want you to keep in mind, when you are thinking of SEO, it is not just a word or a couple words. Sometimes it's strings of words. Think about what people type into search engines. Okay. So if somebody types into a search engine, how to grow my business through blogging, and I have an article named Grow Your Business by Blogging, it's probably going to come up. So think about how people search and try to think about how to incorporate strings of words into your blog that are searchable, that people are searching for. Okay. And the more of those strings of words that you have, the more people will find your website and your blog. Okay. Once they're on your blog, they can then go to other places on your website. But if you're blogging correctly, and here's the thing, a lot of people don't blog correctly. When you do blog correctly, you should be referring people to other places, maybe referring to other articles and linking them. And when you do that, you will more than likely get somebody that goes to another link, to another page on your website, and not a bounce. Okay, so there's a lot of things that you can do. So when you blog, you can get people to your website, but then you can get them to go somewhere else with a similar article, or maybe an offer on that page that relates to the article, whatever it is. Okay, so a blog can be super useful, and you can actually get business from your blog. But you don't just throw a blog up there for the sake of throwing a blog up there. You need to think about the SEO component. You need to think about what people are searching for. what people in your industry want and need. It's not just what they want, they need to want and need it. And they need to recognize that they want and need it. Okay. And then when you are talking about those things, you are automatically putting the keywords in there, or the keyword strings that your people are searching for online. So that will bring more traffic to your website as a whole. Okay. The other the other thing that I want to talk about regarding blogging is that you can guest blog um, for other people, which gets more visibility for you. Sometimes they require a unique blog to guest, to guest blog for them, and sometimes you can use an article that you've already written. So make sure you check the parameters with that. But that's another way to get more visibility for your blog. But blogging really helps you. I'm telling you, the SEO component of blogging is so strong that if you don't blog, I guarantee you are not getting the traffic that you should be. Blogging is just so useful as far as SEO goes. So think about guesting, because you can reach their audience, you can reach the other person's audience. Another thing that I want to point out, if you are part of an organization or a networking group or something like that, a lot of times if they have a website, they will allow you to submit blogs so they can get some SEO for their website. So that's another option with blogging. Blogging is really beneficial. I cannot even say how beneficial. And I know for a fact that I can blog faster than I could do a podcast and produce it and put it out to the world. Blogging should take no more than like 2 or 3 hours on average, unless it's a really detailed blog where you have to research a lot of things. So 2 to 3 hours tops. Okay. If it's a subject that you know well, you may be able to knock it out in an hour. Just make sure that you have great graphics. Always have a graphic. Don't just put words on a paper. Like, nobody wants to see that. Like, they need something to attract them. You also need to break up your text. Don't do huge paragraphs. Keep your paragraphs to 2 to 3 sentences at a time to break up the text and give the look some white space. You need the white space. If people see a whole bunch of words on a page with long paragraphs, they're just going to click away. So that's a big tip. So make sure you remember that one. Now the cons of blogging is it's slow. Okay. So in slow, I mean, okay, if you put an article up there today and you haven't blogged before, it takes a while till the Google crawlers are finding your stuff and seeing what kind of things you write about. Okay. So that part does take a while. So, like I said, though, none of this stuff is the short game, it's all the long game. So, you have to do what it is that you love and make sure you're in it for the long game so that you can get the traction and the expertise and authority online that you should be getting. And if you're in it for the long game and you're blogging consistently, it may take a couple months until it starts taking hold and Google starts recognizing you as an authority in that thing that you do. Okay. But it will happen. Just know that it will happen if you keep doing it. If you do it inconsistently, Google is not going to recognize it because it's going to be like one here, one there, and it's not consistent enough for Google to actually pick up, oh, yeah, this is what she talks about, or this is the subject matter I should point people to, or, oh, she is an authority here. Google's not going to pick that up because you're not consistent. You have to be consistent. Okay. And the other thing I did address is time, which is not for some people. And when you start out, it may take you a little longer to write blog posts, but once you get used to doing it and you're doing it consistently, you can become very quick at it. When I do a blog post, I don't know if you guys are going to be able to see this. These are my notes for today. Okay. this is what I do for a blog post. I do headings, and then I do things under the headings as bullet points. And then I get down and I write. I don't write it all out somewhere. I just do bullet points, subject matter bullet points, and this is what I'm going to write about. And I really, for the most part, write the way I speak, but you do want to make sure you're using proper English when you are blogging. That's a must. Okay, so let's get to number 3, the third powerful way you can establish authority in your industry. And you guys have probably guessed it, and that is a live show or YouTube. Now, you may say, oh, well, those are two different things. They are and they aren't. Okay. So for me, I do my live show every Thursday. Okay. But I also broadcast to YouTube, directly to YouTube. So my live show goes to YouTube. It is not a formatted, perfect, edited YouTube. But the value is always there. Okay. So I do also upload some other YouTubes, but mostly YouTube is getting my lives. I used to just download them from Facebook, upload them to YouTube, but now I just broadcast live there. Um, so to me, they're one and the same. However, if you do not do live video, and not everybody likes live video, I do because honestly, the pressure of having to do it perfect, I'm not a fan of. I'm not perfect. Um, but I can do live video. People understand, things happen during live video. Sometimes tech doesn't work. Things happen. So to me, it's a little bit more laid back and a little bit more giving. Okay. So I prefer live video, but you may prefer doing professional videos for YouTube and having the whole intro, outro, everything. Like I don't do all that. I have a cover, but I don't do all of those other things because most of mine are live videos on YouTube. So doing video of any type of long form video, it doesn't have to be long form though, but I'm really thinking about having a live show or a YouTube show. Like, and those two things are generally published at regular intervals, at regular times, like the same time every week. This happens. Okay. So for me, it's 11 a.m. Eastern time is my live show. And so it publishes to YouTube at 11, it publishes to Facebook, it publishes to Twitter, it publishes to all my places at that time. And what I want to stress about this is that if you have a live show or if you have a YouTube channel and you say this is what you do, things will come out this time and this time, it has to be done. Okay, so you can't do it not this week because you don't feel like it, or uh, you have to make sure these things go out on a regular basis. You have to be consistent. Being consistent wins the race. I am telling you guys this. Whether it's blogging, whether it's podcasting, whether it's a live show or a YouTube channel, being consistent is super important. If you're not consistent, it's going to be hard to gain the followers that want to see your show every week because they don't know when your show is coming out. Okay. So really be conscientious of that. When you choose any of these ways to establish authority, if you're not doing any of them, I highly, highly, highly suggest that you choose at least one. You don't have to do them all. Just one. Just pick one that you love. If you love writing, you may want to pick blogging. If you love doing live video, you may want to do live video. If you love doing the formatted video because you don't like being in front of an audience, then do that. Upload it to YouTube once a week. The key, though, is consistency. Okay? That's the key. On YouTube, in order to get subscribers, you have to be consistent. And you have to know how to promote it. And you have to know how to optimize your YouTube channel so that you can attract followers. Honestly, it's not that simple. You do have to, there's a lot of things that go into it. You also need to, if you're doing live video, now I'm talking about live video. I know I'm switching back and forth with video, but video is video. Video always establishes authority. So with live video, there's challenges that come with that, such as visibility on social platforms. Sure, live video is shown more than regular posts in the feed, but it's not shown as much as it used to be. So if you were used to getting, say, 150 people see your video, you might be getting 10, 20 now. And that's a hard pill to swallow. So when you're thinking of which thing you want to do, okay, you may want to do all of them. And I've known some people that do their podcasts and they video them and they do them as a live video also, and that is entirely up to you. I've heard that it's not always a good thing to do, but I don't see that it would be a bad thing to do every once in a while, because you're cross promoting. So you have to understand that the consistency and the quality are what's going to bring new subscribers, whether it's subscribers on YouTube, subscribers to your page, follow your page for your weekly show, whatever it is, you have to be consistent and it has to be high quality. All of these things must be high quality and consistent. So the cons in doing a live show is, one of them is the algorithm, which I already talked about. And another one is YouTube optimization, which I also already talked about. YouTube optimization can be challenging. Just because you throw a video up there doesn't mean people will watch it. Okay? It doesn't mean that people will find it. And you need to know all of those things that you need to do in order to get people to see it. And I know a YouTube guru right now who's struggling with the reach of her video. And it's not easy even for the pros to keep it at a high level. Okay, so I just want you guys to think about, if you're not doing any of these, okay, consistently and regularly, I want you to think of which one that would be the best for you. Is it podcasting? Is it blogging? Is it a live show or YouTube? Which of these three things do you love doing? Which of these three things do you think would help your business the most? Would help you to be seen as the expert that you know that you are? But just because you know you are doesn't mean other people do until they find your content. Okay, so that is really what I wanted to talk to you guys about today. Really establishing that authority online with the content that you put out to the world. But these three types of content are super important because they really solidify who you are in your industry. Okay. So I want you guys to understand that. You don't have to do all of them, but honestly, just doing one of these will help significantly. So, like I said at the beginning, I do have only two spots open to work with me one-on-one for 4 months till the end of the year. Once they're gone, they're gone, because I can only take 2 clients right now. But I would love to work with you. If you want to grow and scale your business online, if you want to be in a place where you are ready to hire a team and get into the 6 figures, if that's what you want for this year, I would love to talk with you. The call's free. I put the link in the comments. The call is free. I will see if you are a good fit. You do have to be a good fit for the program. I want everybody that's in my program to get the best results possible. So I'm really selective in the people that I work with. So just understand that. But I would love to chat with you regardless, because you never know where that's going to go. And I do have other ways to work with me also. So that is what I have for you today. 3 powerful ways to establish authority in your industry, podcasting, blogging, and live show or YouTube. So tell me what you guys think. I would love to hear. Put it in the comments below. If you're doing any of those things, I would love to see what you're doing, especially if you have a podcast or a blog. Honestly, those things I think are powerful, podcasting and blogs. The live show and YouTube are very powerful too. They're just a little bit more challenging with algorithms and optimization and stuff like that. So, but I would love to see what you guys are doing. So drop it in the comments. I'd love to check it out. That is what I have for you today. If you have any questions, put them below. I will be back to check and answer any questions that you may have. That's what I have for you today. You have an amazing day.